San Angelo rose here in 1867 beside the U.S. Cavalry outpost Fort Concho. The soldier station here served as the long arm of the law for the vast Texas plains. More than 145 years later, San Angelo reaches into the future frontiers, encompassing the state, the nation, even the globe. San Angelo still serves as a regional hub for commerce in all forms: banking, energy, agriculture, healthcare, retail, and entertainment. The San Angelo Stock Show and Rodeo is our community's signature event. The Wild West spectacle offers one of the 5 most lucrative prize purses on the professional rodeo tour. Artists have always been able to find their muse here. San Angelo also embraces a renowned symphonic orchestra and ballet company, several youth theater troupes, and the state's oldest community theater. The recent renovation of our historic City Hall is enhancing the ongoing revitalization of our historic downtown that once again pulses with brio. Water remains a magnetic attraction. Lake Nathsworthy's constant level lures boaters, wakeboarders, anglers, and campers from across West Texas. The Tranquil International Water Lily Collection is a one-of-a-kind assortment of rare and beautiful water lilies. Along the Concho River, millions of dollars are being invested to transform San Angelo's River Walk into a must-be destination for those who favor scenic vistas, public artwork, exercise, and leisure. Fort Concho still stands watch. Today, a National Historic Landmark, the fort is the city's top tourist attraction. The annual Christmas at Old Fort Concho celebration has become a holiday staple. And also, as it was in 1867, the Concho's gentle flow remains a steadfast symbol for what San Angelo has always been and is today, an oasis, a fertile haven that's a perfect place to work, to play, to call home.
It's a great pleasure to be here today as I look out into the audience and see many of the friends and supporters and people who've made San Angelo great. Whether you're a business or a nonprofit, what you bring to the table and bring to this city is so important to how we look and how people feel about our community. It's been a tough year, and believe me, as mayor, no one felt how tough it was more than I did. Whether it was the initial impact of COVID and shutting down businesses, then a winter storm, and then here came COVID again. The great news is that all of you out there are survivors, and it is because we have that strong West Texas character that creates the strength that we have here in this community. I would like to start by asking each of you to thank everyone at your table for what they did and are doing to make this city the great city that it is. Without you, we wouldn't be San Angelo. The city of San Angelo measures their success by 2 key areas. One is certainly sales tax growth, of which we had a 7% increase over the previous year, or approximately $2.1 million. Those sales tax dollars are so important to us because it is through those dollars that we have the ability to fund many of the projects we have, but also COSA DC, the City of San Angelo's Development Corporation. And for those of you who don't understand what that means, it means that the dollars you spend, the dollars that visitors to our city spends, is money that we give and allocate to the Chamber of Commerce's Economic Development team to ensure that our economy moves forward. Without your investment in products and services here in San Angelo, we wouldn't have that money to fund future development and a key area of this city, our economic development team. But we also want to say the following. The other key area is our property tax dollars. Last year, we increased the property tax dollars with new property as well as increased valuations by $128 million. That's success, folks. People very often say, well, I don't understand why the city doesn't have more money to spend on all of the infrastructure needs that we have when we have such incredible growth of $128 million. Well, let me put it into perspective for you. Of that $128 million, the property tax dollar that the city benefits from is less than $1 million. It's $800,000. It takes tremendous growth and development to bring increased property tax dollars to this city. So when we push the button and say on an ongoing basis, we need more growth and development, because if we only benefit by less than $800,000 on a $128 million foundation of property tax, we've got to keep working and continuing to find ways to bring new business, new ideas, and new growth to this city. As it relates to unemployment, I know that I, over the past year, have found it difficult to find employees. And yet, we look at the statistics today. A year ago, our unemployment rate was almost 11%. Today, it's less than 5%. And that compares to the state of Texas's 7%. So the economy is getting better. We are finding employees, and yet there's still a need for more people to come back to work and support all the businesses that need you to help us survive. We must make sure that when we grow, that we also keep in mind how we grow. And the importance of our planning and zoning areas is key, because it is the way, through correct planning and zoning, that we protect this city and the quality of life that it gives each of us who live here. We've got to make sure we do that, because the greatest asset we have are the people, the businesses, and the companies coming to San Angelo. But we, as a city, need to have the ability to continue to communicate, protect, and provide resources to protect the great assets we have here in San Angelo. Whether we call them local gems or local assets, they are the things that make San Angelo unique and different in West Texas as well as in the state of Texas. The Concho River. When you see the photographs of that Concho River narrated by Sonny Clear, it adds so much value to this city. Not only because of the walking trails it provides, but a canvas for all the talented artists that exist here in San Angelo. Other cities say, I wonder how we can make a river run through our downtown area. Well, we're blessed, and we are so blessed, but we must continue to protect that Concho River. We've had a lot of development in our downtown area, and we look forward in the next 2 to 3 years to see growth and development on the south side of the river. We've been very cautious and very protective of that real estate, because we know if we make the wrong decision, invite the wrong person in, we lose the value of the Concho River. The Concho River is a quality of life asset. As you walk the trails in downtown, you'll see that we continue. The Catholic Church continues to work on the Lady in Blue exhibit. And I know that there are more art installations that are continuing to happen as we look forward to expanding our cultural district. Lake Nasworthy, it brings tremendous amount of sales tax dollars to this city. It's one of the great assets that we have, let alone providing the water that we all drink on a daily basis. But let me also say that the two things we needed to do, number one was to make sure that our water was safe and that the lake was safe. We have a cast iron water line that runs underneath the river, and should it leak, there goes our water. So in 2019, we asked the citizens to support us allowing the city to use the money in the Lake Nasworthy Trust Fund to increase the capacity and protect our water source. And the good news is, with that being done and people understanding our game plan going forward, there's already a lot of attention being paid to future development, including restaurants, additional housing, and a potential hotel. That lake is hugely important to us, not only in terms of our economic growth and development, but also an asset that brings sales tax dollars because it's a big draw for visitors. I believe many of the houses out there are owned by people from Midland. Lake Nasworthy draws people in. Once again, Lake Nasworthy is a quality of life asset that we have. Historic downtown. I am passionate about historic downtown, as many of you know, and it's not just because I have a business downtown. It is because it, in essence, is the living room of the city of San Angelo. Its importance is about our history, our ancestors, and our future. If we don't protect the asset that we have in downtown San Angelo, our historic district, we lose a lot of what San Angelo is all about. I take great pride in the progress that has been made in downtown. In 2007, there were 3 businesses that were open after the hour of 5 o'clock. Today, there's close to 30. And that does not include the retail businesses that have also opened up. Do you know that in 2007, of the 308 buildings that make up our historic district, our business district, there were 144 empty buildings. Today, there's 47. That's called progress. But the bigger picture, the most important picture that we can paint is what makes downtown important to us. It is, in fact, the reason people choose to move here. It is the reason we have the ability to recruit professors, doctors, nurses, and new citizens. People look at us and they say, if they don't believe in their own history, if they don't believe in the culture that a historic district brings to the table, why would I want to live here? Many people judge a city based off their historic district. And many of our cities, sister cities, such as Midland, Odessa, and Lubbock, look at us and say, we want to do what San Angelo has done. Help us figure out what to do. Their problem? They tore down the buildings. They wiped the slate clean, and they have lots of empty parking lots, brand new buildings that no one's interested in looking at, because they have no culture, no history, and no story to tell in their downtown area. We must continue to support all the efforts in our historic downtown area because it is our future. If you don't protect your future, if you don't protect your history, you have no future. And so we want to thank all of the businesses, the entrepreneurial spirit, the creative ideas that have gone on and created the historic district. The city supported in 2006 downtown becoming a Main Street city. And for the 13th year in a row, our downtown organization has been an accredited Main Street city by the Texas Historic Commission. They deserve a round of applause. Fort Concho, it is about our beginnings, and it is about our history. As you saw in the video, it is one of the most traveled and visited historic sites in this city. And it is because the city protected that institution, that fort, that we have it today to bring visitors to town. As we all know, last year when we didn't have Christmas at Old Fort Concho, we all felt that. It's such an important part of the holiday season, and it brings so many people into this city, and it says a lot about why history is important. That fort has had over $1 million invested based off of decisions the City Council made to improve the quality of the facilities, from the wooden pillars that needed reworked, from the paint job that it needed, and then with a private, you know what, I need a glass of water. Can I have I'm talking too much. Thank you. The private-public partnership that the Area Foundation has pulled together to ensure that the 2 additional barracks that needed to be done had the money behind them. So almost $4 million has been brought to the table through the Area Foundation to help improve Fort Concho here in San Angelo, Texas. It is about our beginnings, and it is about the military, and it's one of the reasons we continue to celebrate our military beginnings, because without Fort Concho, guess what? San Angelo wouldn't be here. We came after Fort Concho. We weren't before Fort Concho. It continues to be a pillar here in San Angelo. But when we talk about our assets, it would be wrong not to talk about the stock show and rodeo. Because in fact, of course, it celebrates all things cowboy and all things Western. And again, that's a big part of our heritage. Thank you to all the work and effort that the stock show board put into this year's event. They worked hard to make sure that even with all that was going on in this community, that we still had a stock show. And the good news is they found a way to separate the livestock show from the rodeo, which meant it brought more people, more tourists, more sales tax dollars to the city of San Angelo. And so a big thank you to all of those who worked so hard to bring everybody together. Job well done. Goodfield Air Force Base, another great asset that we have here in the city. And did you know that we have a company here in San Angelo, Anodyne, that makes every single uniform that the military wears, regardless of what part of the military they're in, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Army. Those uniforms start here, right here in San Angelo. But Goodfellow wouldn't be what it is today if we didn't have a continuing new leadership that comes to town and helps invigorate and bring new ideas. And it wouldn't be what it is today if we didn't have a community group of people who believed, supported, and fought hard to make our Goodfield Air Force Base what it is. Carol Ann Bonds has fought passionately for Goodfield Air Force Base, as has Mike Boyd. Randy Brooks has stepped up as a community leader to ensure that we here in the city of San Angelo don't ever have to worry about losing Goodfield Air Force Base. We would feel the pain because, of course, San Angelo's Goodfield Air Force Base is one of the top employers in this city. Many of our companies, our restaurants, our other businesses survive because of the tremendous Goodfield Air Force Base impact on our community. So a big thank you to Goodfield Air Force Base. And we can't stop talking about our assets unless we've talked about the lilies, the international lily pads. Many people feared over this past few months that with Ken Landon passing, that in fact we would lose the value in the international lily pad. We will not do that. We know what it does for this city. We know what it brings to the table. It brings a lot of international publicity to us here in San Angelo. And we will find a to continue to support and make the international lily pads a great asset for the city of San Angelo. Just imagine if any one of these assets disappeared from San Angelo. What would we look like? There would be a hole. There would be a missing piece. It would diminish who we are and what we are in a visitor's eyes as well as you as citizens. We must continue to invest, promote, and support all of these unbelievable assets that we have here in San Angelo. They are San Angelo. I would say the following, that through this past year, one of the most important things that happened with all that went on was that our tax base continued to grow. And we know it did because of the following things. We had a 7% increase in sales tax dollars. That's growth. We had $128 million of an increase in our property tax base. That's growth. But growth doesn't happen unless we invest and have leadership, once again, in COSA DC. And they have been key in working with the Chamber and making sure that we secure our future and our future's growth. Expansions from SMC Global, they're now at a 100,000 square feet facility, a company that 2 years ago did not exist here in San Angelo. Aeromotor is about to put up an additional 10,000 square foot warehouse. You know, Aeromotor's presence in San Angelo goes back to the late 1800s. They're not a new company. They're a company that's had a low profile, but they believe in this city and they're getting ready to invest significant dollars to increase their presence here in San Angelo, but also on a national level. Double J Meatpacking, well, yes, it in fact ended up from leasing our facility to buying the facility because they believe in San Angelo. And it goes back to honoring what were one of the key selling points of San Angelo, and that was that we were the world's famous wool and mohair sheep producers. So Rees in downtown San Angelo created the Sheep Spectacular event in honor of our history, in honor of the legend that helped make San Angelo, the Miss Wool contest, the big parades downtown. The lamb industry continues to be an important part of our economy, just as all other agricultural areas. We have to support all of those things that are natural to our economy, and that means the agricultural industry. Winland Manufacturing, again, homegrown, homebred facility. It originated here, it's still here, and they're expanding and growing as we speak. In 2007, I laid out some strategic plans that I wanted to achieve during my time as mayor. And most of you can probably finish this statement for me. It goes, planes, trains, and automobiles. The good news is lots of people are talking about that strategic plan. And the good news is we have delivered on every single element of that strategy. Again, due to great partnerships, public-private partnerships, ASU has introduced a pilot program which will be part of their fall curriculum. It originally estimated that 5 people would show up to enlist in this pilot program. The good news is 28 people did. That's success, folks. And again, it's happening because we have homegrown people who believe in this city and have put up the funds to buy the airplanes to make this program work. Brian and Blake Vincent, Jared White, Lloyd Norris, they're out there buying the planes because ASU can't afford the planes. They had to go to the private area of support to buy those planes to make this successful. It is these private-public partnerships that make us the great city that it is. That GTE hangar that we've talked about for decades is going to come into a big part of our pilot program. With support from COSA DC, the investment will be made to ensure that this pilot program, the hangar space that's needed, the facilities and training space that's needed will happen. Planes have happened. Yes, we're disappointed that United Airlines SkyWest pulled out of San Angelo, but they did leave behind over $300,000 investment in our airport facility. And we're not through with them. They're going to hear from us again. But we do believe the economy has to stabilize, and the industry as a whole, commercial airlines, have to stabilize a little bit more before we can hit them up again. Trains, another private-public partnership. We had to come up with options for transportation, because if we didn't, we were not going to be big players in the world of growth and development out here in West Texas. Chad Weisner, who runs railports in 2 other cities, came to the table and offered us a situation that we couldn't refuse. His leadership, his knowledge, his strength in working with Michael Looney and Roger Horton are delivering a railport within 3 years. That's progress, folks. That's success. In fact, we're all sold up. It's time to expand. How about that? Time to expand. Automobiles. We've talked a long time about interstate. And we have 2 potential interstates coming through San Angelo. I shouldn't say potential. They're going to come to San Angelo. It's just about the timing and when they'll get here. I-27 and I-14 are both parts of the infrastructure bill that's in our Congress's hands as we speak today. We need the interstate because the cities, our sister cities around us, are getting projects and big development because they are on the interstate. And we can't play because we don't have. We've got to be a player in the business of transportation and in the issue of having an interstate go through San Angelo. It will bring jobs. It will increase GDP. It will decrease fatalities. It will speed up transportation, which means transportation costs will reduce. We say this often, but I'll repeat it again. What it costs to build a home in San Angelo is greater than in Austin, Texas, even though our lot prices, our land prices are less because of the cost of transportation to get product to San Angelo. We must find a way to decrease transportation costs, not only because many people dream about owning a home, but because our businesses, one of their greatest expenses happens to be transportation costs. And they can't be competitive in their product if they can't reduce their transportation costs. We are delivering on the strategy of transportation. Thank you for everyone for being a part of that. Strategically, we also talked about affordable housing and the need to have a housing study done. Many of us said, why do we need a housing study? Obviously, people want to buy houses. Obviously, there's a need for housing. Why do we need a housing study? Well, the reality is we needed a housing study because you can't bring in outside investment or people from outside our community to develop in your city without a document that says you are needed, because the banks need that document to say, I will finance your project. And without that, we miss, again, huge opportunities. Affordable housing is important because there are many people out there, when they walk through their front door, they're not happy. And that experience walking through your front door in a neighborhood that shows growth and new housing is hugely important. Quality of neighborhood is important. And what we have strived to do is to make sure that development happens in all areas of this city, not just in the new growth in the south part of Texas, in the south part of San Angelo, but all over the city, including in Lakeview. In Lakeview, there hadn't been new development for decades. Today, there are affordable houses that are being built for under $169,000. But there's also a new project out at Shriners Point that will have 176 new apartments and as many new homes, all under $200,000. And why is that $200,000 important? Well, in 2020, 47% of the houses that were sold were under $200,000. Today, that's 38%. Why is the number down? One, because of affordability. because of commodity increase and lack of availability. We must continue to provide assets for homes to our citizens. And the other reason it's hugely important to us is because we talked earlier about Goodfellow Air Force Base. One of their greatest challenges was a lack of affordable housing and good housing outside that base. We as a community heard them, felt the need, saw the need, and worked aggressively to come up with projects that would help address the housing needs for Goodfellow Air Force Base. And we have delivered, or the development community has delivered. Creek 27 is already leasing, I think, in their third phase. They have, in fact, been a new idea, a new concept that nowhere else in Texas has. It's like apartments, but they're tiny houses, and the response has been fantastic. In fact, so much so that they have said, well, we only planned for 300, but we really should have had 500. That shows a need, and we hope that we can find another piece of property for them to grow. But we also have the Glen Park Apartments on Chadburn and Old Cristoval Road, very close to Goodfellow Air Force Base, and affordable living, 60 units. We have South Oaks and Avenue D. They're in the process of being built. We'll see some of those available next year. The Wolf Creek Apartments on Loop 306, 273 units. They should be leasing in the next 60 to 90 days. We are bringing more affordable or more options to the citizens in terms of housing. We must continue to push the button on providing housing because, again, we cannot recruit businesses, companies, new citizens if they don't have a great place or a lot of options to choose from. But one of the other great things that's happening in this city, and it's sort of a secret underground sort of thing happening. 2 years ago, we talked about connectivity and the need for it and the lack of options in terms of that. But today, because the cloud exists, what we are finding is that there are more people working in tech jobs here in San Angelo from home at high-level salaries. Fortune 500 people know about San Angelo and about the quality of people here in San Angelo. There are individuals today making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 working from home because of the cloud. But that being said, we know we need fiber. We need fiber run to all of our houses and our businesses. The good news, folks, it's coming near you soon. Fiber is here. Education continues to be an important part of what happens here in San Angelo. And again, private-public partnerships have been key. Ronnie Hawkins' leadership at ASU has brought to this city a cybersecurity program that in fact is the first and only in the nation. We, the City of San Angelo, ASU, have been selected as the test city for creating a cybersecurity program. The only city, and how we do, how we perform, how we execute will determine what happens in the rollout in all of the nation. San Angelo deserves an applaud for that. But we also have a program called SME Prime, only the second city in the state of Texas selected for this program. And it is to bring manufacturing technology to the curriculum to our students, K through 12. Only the second city in the state of Texas who has been offered this program. And we are working aggressively with SISD to make sure, once again, our students, whether they're part of the SME Prime or the STEM program that our Museum of Fine Arts and Goodfellow Air Force Base is ensuring that our students are exposed to and know about technology and the skills needed for the future of our city and their futures. I want to talk about locally born and grown because it's an important part of this city. You know, we used to say people went to ASU, they graduated, and they left this town because no one wanted to stick around. Well, the good news is today people are sticking around and they're investing in this community and they're bringing tremendous jobs to this community. Whether it is Time Clock Plus, whether it's Principal LED, these individuals were born and raised here, and we have a new one, Tektronic. Again, born and raised here in San Angelo. We didn't recruit any of these businesses. We didn't recruit any of these individuals. They grew up, they know San Angelo, and they've chosen this to be their place of business. I'm incredibly proud of the homegrown public who believes in this city and is bringing tremendous jobs and dollars back to this community and building our reputation as a city that has tech capability. We might not be San Francisco, we might not be Austin, but there are Fortune 500 people looking at San Angelo and recruiting our people and paying top dollars. That's success. The city of San Angelo, I should say Diane Bays, over the past few months have brought a lot of awards and attention to the city of San Angelo. Those things are hugely important because it does bring notice from many people to our city. And Diane's done a great job of recruiting or looking for these opportunities. But let me remind everybody, Diane Bay's success, and it has been tremendous, comes from one thing: all of you and the product that you deliver. You don't win awards if you don't have product. And our ability to be able to be named as a Texas Travel Award Destination of the Year is because of the assets that we talked about earlier, because of the assets we saw on film. The fort being considered a historic site by the Texas Travel Awards people. It's because the city believed in it decades ago and has protected that fort from demolition, negativity, and have reinvested in it to make sure that we have something that travel writers and the travel people know about us. And so a thank you to all of you and for Diane's leadership in bringing that to the table. It is tremendously appreciated. I am sure I'm almost out of time, but let me just say, we also had delivered on one of the key strategies, and that is bringing gateways to the city of San Angelo. We told you we were going to do them. Today we're going to show you that we did them. Whether it's the gateway, North Bryant Boulevard, whether it's the gateway, South Bryant Boulevard, whether it's the gateway at the airport, or whether it's the gateway into historic downtown. We welcome you, we welcome our visitors, and we say, we are San Angelo, and we are proud.